Okay, so I'm still waiting on parts to come back from the machine shop and from getting coated, but I'm trying to make a video once a week so that the algorithm doesn't forget about me. So what I thought I would talk about is just real quickly, I'm going to make this a short video, is the way I've got the fuel system set up here for the dyno. And the way I'm bringing the fuel in, and the fuel hoses I'm using, and the cart that I've got to hold the fuel in. So we'll have a look at that this time, just to have something to talk about. I haven't talked about a lot is that with things like this, you know, a dyno is a very interesting thing, and you can do a lot of cool things with it. But the thing you ought to be thinking about if you're setting up a dyno, probably the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth thing you should be thinking about is how you're going to do it safely. So now I've seen in other videos, and I'm not going to say who or where, but it seems like I have seen some videos where they actually have the fuel tanks inside the same room as the dyno. Now, it's none of my business how anybody else does it, but for me, that seems like not the safest way to do it. So what you won't see in my dyno room here is a fuel tank. I mean, what those are down there is where I store the coolant, the engine coolant when I'm not using it, and you know, we got this stuff through here. But what you won't see in my room, my dyno room where the engine is the fuel tanks. But what we can look at real quick, and I'll have to go handheld on this one, is a little bit of look at the fuel line that I'm using. And basically I just go in from it's basically this this braided stainless steel fuel hose here. And it comes through here, and then when it gets to there, I got some AN fittings, and it goes to rubber, and then to the fitting on there. And then it comes out through there, and up and down. And then I have a pass-through in the wall here for the lines to go through. And that's a PVC pipe there, so that when I'm fishing things in through it, that I'm not chafing at the drywall. Or actually, in this case, it's plywood on this wall. But yeah, it comes through there, and I've actually got two separate fuel lines, and one of them's a supply line, and then the other one's a return line. And I really haven't had a need to use the return line yet, because the fuel systems I've been using don't really have a return line. But there's a possibility in the future that I might be wanting to try some fuel injection stuff. And with fuel injection, you usually have a supply line and a return line, so that there's a constant, you know, at least a constant circulation of fuel through the lines at all times. So, and if I do fuel injection, in some cases I'll need to use a return line, so it's there if I need it, but I haven't used it yet. So it comes out through there, and out through there is that's basically where I operate the dyno from. So let's have a look at how the cart that I put together for storing the gasoline. And there's a quick look at the Budget 302. It's still here in case you've been missing it. So, and the garage is a bit cluttered right now, which I don't like, but I've got 3 different engines in here including the Budget 302. I've got 3 different engines in here, and it's just it's not that big of a garage, and it's getting a little bit cluttered. So we're back out here, and basically I just have this outdoor storage bin right here. Inside of it, it's a small, so this is the setup I've got, and that's just one of those Harbor Freight roll around tool carts, and I modified it a little bit to fit this little fuel cell that I got, I think I got that on Amazon a while ago. And I forget how many gallons it is, but it looks like maybe 5 gallons. And it's got different AN fittings here for returns and venting. I usually just leave those, I just leave them kind of loose so that the thing can ventilate. And here's that return line. And I guess I forgot to show you, I got all these other pass-throughs here that the fuel lines come through. And those other ones are for the water supplies. And I got that all hooked up too from that other project I was working on. But anyway, back out to here. And yeah, one of the things that was kind of funny about this was that it came with a built-in fuel level sensor. But what was funny about it was that, and I don't know if you can begin to see it, but the float only goes about halfway down, and then after that it's useless. So anyway, it's there, but maybe if I bent it, nah, there's no bending that to make it work. But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny that they did that. They took the trouble to put a float in there to measure the fuel level, which I thought would have been a pretty good thing to have. You know, have a fuel level gauge at the console so I could see what when I was about to run out of gas and whatnot. But the way they set that up, there was just it's not going to work, obviously. At any rate, so yeah, the fuel comes out here. That one's just capped off. Comes out through here into that same kind of braided steel hose. Got a hand valve there. That's just one of those inexpensive canister style fuel filters. And this is the fuel pump that I got. I think I got that from Summit. I think it's their brand. And I can't remember what the actual flow rate on that was. I can't remember what the flow rate on that was. But I think I remember estimating that it would be roughly good for about 500 horsepower, which, you know, again, I've talked about this before, but I kind of like running the lower horsepower stuff. It's I find it just as interesting, and it's less expensive, and there's just as much to learn on a 200 horsepower engine as there is on a 500 horsepower engine, in my opinion. I really think that there is. I think it's just as interesting. But anyway, that's the fuel pump. Comes off of there and into here. Got a fuel pressure regulator. Got a I know it's kind of hard to see there, but can't really see it, but there's just a fuel pressure gauge there. And I think it's an oil-filled one. But what we got over here is this is a connector. This is the connector for powering the fuel pump. And I have a switch at the console that turns this on and off. I can turn this on and off from the console. And what else is about this? So what this here is, it's a ground pin, it's a ground strap for this. And so basically what I did here was I bonded this cart to the dyno, and the engine's always bonded to the how should I put it? This what this does is it grounds, or bonds, more accurately to say it bonds this this cart to the dyno, the chassis of the engine dyno. And the other thing is that this, because this is braided like this, I haven't checked it recently, but I'm pretty sure if I ran a continuity tester between here and the dyno, we'd have continuity between here and the dyno. And the reason I did that is, again, about safety. And the idea is, like, maybe in the winter time when the air is dry and you get the, you know, those static electrical shocks and stuff like that, sparks, static electricity sparks. You could be like in the dyno room, you could be hooking up your fuel to your engine, and maybe a spark might jump when you know, in the vicinity of the fuel. So the idea of bonding this bonding this to the chassis of the dyno in there would keep it from, it would make the voltages balance out and keep those sparks from jumping when the fuel line is near the engine. So anyway, that's another safety feature there. And then see here, what else have I got? And then the other ones are just the power and the ground. And I leave this disconnected when I'm not using it. And usually when I don't plan on running the engine for a while, I actually pull all these fuel lines out and coil them up, and I put them in here while I'm not using them. So that's a real quick look at the fuel tank and everything. And I guess another thing I could talk about is that the chassis of the dyno is grounded. So I actually went and got one of those grounding rods that you put in for your electrical utility. I have a grounding rod behind the garage. So not only is the chassis of the dyno grounded to real ground itself, it's this thing here. So this thing here is basically grounded to earth, and it's bonded to the chassis of the engine dyno. So that, and there's other reasons for that, for like electrical noises and things like that that could interfere with my data acquisition system signals. So yeah, I'm already running about over 12 minutes on this short video that I wanted to make. But yeah, that's about it. It's real simple. The other thing about it is that I have to be careful with here is that when that's got, you know, maybe, I usually don't fill this up all the way, but maybe just half of it. But the thing that can happen here is that this thing's, yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with them, and it can be really top heavy. And what I do sometimes, I actually put weights down there in the bottom, but when I have it inside of this, inside of here, I'm not as worried about it tipping over, but sometimes I do worry about it, and there's weights that I can put down in there so it doesn't tip over so easily, because you really don't want your fuel tank flipping over on you ever. That could be dangerous too. Well, I guess that's about it for now. That's all I got for this week, and I'm hoping that next week we're actually going to be back working on an engine again. Maybe get that Kubota finished up. I'm kind of looking forward to that, getting that moved on. All right, so anyway, that's all I got for this week, and I'll see you next time.